Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Hipfire Podcast. As today we have a very special guest. So let's take everyone back to 2009. I myself was 11 years old in grade 5. My friends and I would jam to the hit single at the time, I Got a Feeling by the Black Eyed Peas. And then we watched the new Avatar film that everyone was talking about. We would later watch the most popular YouTuber at the time, Fred. Meanwhile, in another country, our guest was starting to compete in the new Call of Duty 4. Competing for over a decade, our guest is one of the OGs in the Call of Duty scene and has played for organizations such as Team Envy, United, Evil Geniuses, and Cloud9. He boasts two major event wins, more than most in the COD community, and boasts over $330,000 in prize winnings, good for top 80 in the United States. He is one of 21 people on this planet to be crowned a Call of Duty World Champion on LAN, and not only does he have a ring on his finger, but he has one on his nose. Please welcome Justin Silly Fargo.
What's
Justin, how
up,
are you doing,
guys?
man?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here and hopefully answer some questions you guys have.
Yes, I think the first question we're going to start out with is a lot of crazy roster media stuff going on, but more importantly, how is married life treating you?
So, my married life, last weekend was supposed to be our wedding, and we actually had to postpone it for a full year. So, not quite married
Oh
yet,
no. Okay.
but yeah, we're kind of just they're making us cut down our list, and they're making us, wear masks the entire time. And for our like ceremony pictures, we're like, yeah, we should probably just push it. So,
Yeah.
a little while longer.
All right. Soon to be though. I'm excited for you guys. That
Yeah.
was I know when the engagement happened, it was one of those moments where like the whole community can get together and be happy for one of the pros. So it's always nice to see those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But just to start off, how did you first get into esports and learn about what it is?
So I was kind of in esports in the first place when it wasn't really like esports. I used to skate a lot when I was younger, and then I broke my collarbone. And when I broke my collarbone, I kind of started grinding like FPS games. Started off on Halo, and then when COD 4 came out, I started grinding COD 4 and playing like online tournaments on that. So I guess that was kind of like esports infancy. I was just kind of unaware of it at the time.
It's fair. Why was your gamer? I know we asked people what their gamer tag is, but why did you choose Silly in particular? Was there any reason behind it?
So basically, way back then, just like every person that played was like, wow, like what tag can I have that nobody else has that's like original? And then one of my friends I played GBs with always called me Silly Goose because it was my friend named Hyphy, and he was probably like 20 or something when I was like 13 or so, and he just like always called me Silly Goose. So I changed my name to that because I've never seen anybody else have Silly. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna go with this because my gamer tag before that was literally my name, so I had to change something.
Um,
Yeah.
when did you first like believe, and your family believed that you could actually make gaming a living?
Realistically, like unless you're like top dog through, I want to say until like probably like Black Ops 3, it was kind of hard to make a living off it. I kind of just did it on the side. I was in high school all the way through. What game? I want to say AW. In AW, I had like just gotten out of high school. Um, and that's when we actually started to make like any kind of salary or anything. And that's when I kind of realized that I can kind of push it a little further. And obviously now it's like a full time career for a lot of us.
Yeah. I know
I know
you.
you mentioned. Oh, sorry, you go ahead, Seth.
I was gonna say, I know you mentioned in the past that your parents were really supportive and your family's been supportive. So how important was that in building confidence in yourself to go into this career?
I think the family support is like the biggest thing because obviously if you have like, your parents like, like get off the game, you gotta stop playing, like go to school, blah blah blah. And I'm sure there's a lot of like unknown talent somewhere that kind of got cut off from gaming from their parents, that could have been like the best of the best. So really crazy to think about.
And then kind of nowadays, it's a lot more. I guess not this year, but there has been a lot more travel and it's a pretty busy schedule during the season. What does your fiance think about having to like deal with that chaotic schedule?
She doesn't mind the crazy travel schedule too much. She honestly comes to a lot of them when it's actually on land, like when she can get off work and stuff. So
Mhm.
we're together for a lot of them, so
That's
it
nice.
helps us both out, so we're not like apart, and she can kind of watch me play and stuff.
super cool. But let's transition more to your career because I think it's something that isn't talked about a lot necessarily. From like people talk about veterans in the scene, and they always mention Clay, Damon, Crim Six, but they never really mention you, which I think is interesting. So if you could give us an idea, what was it like competing back in COD 4 compared to what it is now? Obviously.
Competing back in COD 4 is just a completely, you know, different era. It was basically like whoever could put players on the worst host possible for the other team.
Yep.
And obviously like the amount of money you win for like prizes and stuff is way different. I got second in one of the pro circuit ladders in 2009. I think I got $200 or $300. So it's definitely changed quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it would be an outrage if you got second and players getting $200 today. I can only imagine what Hex would be saying. But I want to talk about one of the better events you had early on in your career, which was UMG Atlanta and Black Ops 2. I don't know if you recall, you placed top 6, both Dito and Fizzard, and lost to you guys. Actually watched the series. You lost to TK in a close game 5. Your gamer tag at the time was Fargo. I was wondering what went into that, and what was it like playing with guys like Dito and Fizzard?
In Black Ops 2, playing with Dito and Fizzard was awesome. Obviously, they're like kind of like veterans at that point. That was me trying to like rebrand my name a little bit. And then after, getting called a random by random people in 8's lobby, it's just like I just got to change my tag back, man. So I had that for like a couple events, I think, and then just ran it back to Silly. But yeah, that was probably my best event that year. And I was like extremely, extremely good at Black Ops 2. I just kind of, I got scammed a few events during that game by my teammates, so it's kind of hard to gauge.
I was gonna say because the very next event, that same team with John ends up, I think, winning UMG Dallas. So I was curious what that whole situation was.
Yeah, so that situation, I didn't really want to like play at that point. At the end of Black Ops 2, I was like, whatever. Which is kind of like the story of like all those games in between. I kind of just like stopped playing for a little bit, because it wasn't really worth it unless you're like winning it at the top. But that was probably my best chance to win in that game, on that team. But granted, the next event that they won with John, none of the top teams were there. So that's kind of, they didn't have to run into the juggernaut teams. But yeah, it's cool they ended up winning that event. I'm happy Shills got to win an event because that was like my longtime duo.
So
That's for sure.
I was gonna say you mentioned that you took some years off competing, and it seems like you didn't compete during Ghosts, but did you still grind the game and enjoy Call of Duty at the same time?
During Ghost, I did not play at all,
Okay.
like whatsoever. I was trying to play at the beginning. I had a kind of like a demanding relationship. I moved to Seattle, and then I was working full time. I was in school, and I was like, I'll hop on for wagers once in a while. But no, I've probably put like very minimal time into Ghost. I still can't play it to this day. I always skip the Ghost throwbacks.
I can't blame you because I don't know why everyone looks back on it nostalgia. I remember because that was the first Call of Duty I ever watched, and all I remember is how much the pros hated it and shitted on it, and like they would like show them cutting up the disc at the end of the year. So I don't understand
Jeez.
why there's so much like. I guess the S&D was fun, but besides that, everyone hated the game. So I don't know.
Yeah, the S&D is definitely like decent in it, but I don't know. Like a lot of the pros right now, like granted, like not the ones that have won over and over again, but a lot of pros right now that have like 6-figure followers. Most of those followings for a lot of players came during Ghost, so that's one thing I missed out on was the social media presence because like. Moch got like 70,000 followers, like Nameless got like 100K followers, and crazy that worked like that only for that game.
Yeah, it was definitely a weird time. I think it was because all the drama was during Ghost, so there was so much like infighting. I remember that season Scump left Optic Gaming at the time. There's a whole situation with Damon and Complexity, and then Formal also leaving Envy at the end of the year. That was crazy. But moving on to AW, we're talking about AW. That's the game where I learned about who you are, and obviously everyone remembers that very infamous Isolation Esports team. So I was wondering, taking that year off, Ghost, how were you able to find yourselves teaming again with guys like Dito?
So after what are the games in order?
So
was
Black Ops 2, Ghosts, and then it went straight to AW the first.
oh yeah, okay, straight to AW. So I was like me and Dio were probably like the best people on our team in Black Ops 2 for most of the year. And then I took Ghost off, obviously. I think Dio won like one or two events that year, and then he kind of got like he kind of got dropped back off of like the top teams, and him Havoc and Llama kind of just gave me a chance in AW because I was pretty good, and they needed a fourth, and Dito was like, no, we should like definitely play with Justin. So he kind of helped me get onto my first like decent pro team in like any of those recent years.
What was it like competing with that team? Because I remember you guys gave a lot of teams troubles. Like a teams like FaZe, I remember you took them down when they were at their peak, and everyone kept complaining about your guys' unorthodox play style. So what was it about that Isolation Esports team that was so special and different?
Me and Tito have always played like kind of standard COD, but at the time, Havoc and Llama were really like movement-based players, and obviously being the first game with any kind of advanced movement, it was like an oddity. Like now, like people like Shotzi have really good movement, get praise for it, and then in that game you have Llama and Havoc jump dashing everywhere and have super good movement, and it was like a weird new thing, and we kind of just sprinted at people for the most part, so definitely not unorthodox.
Yeah, for sure. One thing we don't have a clip of this, but I wanted to ask you because one of the moments I remember the most about Isolation Esports was Havoc's 1v4 round 11 against Optic Gaming. I wonder if do you remember that clip at all, and what was it like
Yeah,
entering that?
yeah, I remember that. I remember the worst part about that clip is what happened after.
Yeah, I
I don't know
remember
if many people remember
the
that, but
uplink was like I remember that's the one thing because I was a big Optic fan at the time, and I was like the only way that they make up for that is if they win in the uplink, and it was kind of brutal for you guys.
yeah, extremely brutal, the most brutal. Actually, I think we had Goddard on our team for that one as well, which is funny. 20-0, not ideal.
Yeah. Did you ever mention it from time to like Krim or any of the guys bring it up from time to time, or
No, I haven't
just
heard him
kind of
really. I haven't heard him really mention it, to be honest. I think we all buried it after it happened. Thank God.
fair enough, fair enough. So then, when do you take the next question?
Yeah, so you mentioned teaming with GodRx back in IW, and then also in Black Ops 3 at the start of the year, you started teaming with Assault. So what was it like teaming with him? And is that when you guys became kind of close and found a consistent gameplay and chemistry with Assault? Because obviously you ended up teaming with him a lot in the past couple of years and winning champs with him. So what was it like teaming with him back in Black Ops 3?
In Black Ops 3, Adam was like criminally underrated. Like he was like a really, really good AR. We actually made a pretty bad roster choice at the beginning of the game, which pretty much like made us not qualify for the league. And a lot of unfortunate stuff went into us not making the league in the first place. I don't know if you guys remember this at all, but we qualified and we're like, we don't want to play our finals qualifier match, so we kind of skipped it. And then the team we would have played if we played our qualifier match would have been TK. Gunjar couldn't get into the country. We would have got that free spot that the 100 Thieves team got. And instead, we lost Game 7, Round 11 to DT and didn't make it in. So kind of just tough scenario. And then, definitely wasn't Dito's best game, and it kind of hindered us throughout the whole year. So definitely a bad choice on our end.
Yeah, that was.
I was
Go
just
ahead,
going to
go ahead.
continue. At the end of the year, for the champs qualifier, you ended up teaming with Burns, and then obviously after that, he kind of hands you the reins to United. So what was that friendship like with Burns, and how was it playing with him?
Me and Burns are really close. The whole playing with like Burns and Mox thing, that's the worst I've ever been like finessed in my career ever. Basically Adam wanted to go play with Cloud9, so Cloud9's like, all right, well we'll take like the old Complexity team, and then we all got sent to Complexity, and then Complexity is like, well, we promised Parasite we get him a team to play with because Haggy doesn't really care about anybody but himself in that sense. So I basically got finessed off my team that I qualified with after we just got a good placing at the event prior, and I had to play with Burns. I love Burns. Do I want to play with Burns? No. Um, and
You also played with sorry to cut you off. You also played with Doug that event.
yeah, it was wow. That team was and that hurt my soul. That's the closest I've ever been to like quitting for sure. Yeah, that was a horrific time, but it was fun for the one day we got to play on that team together, and didn't get close qualifying, but we also got rain on in the qualifier by some current pros that weren't pros before, so that was unfortunate as well.
Do you care to elaborate who those were? Or?
See, I don't know if it could end up like I don't know if they can get in trouble for it or anything, so I'd rather not. But they're good now, so it's all right that they beat us.
Fair enough.
But without that event, would you still have joined United and had that relationship with Burns? Was it already there before?
Yeah, I actually what did I play with Burns? Oh yeah, I was on the beginning of Black Ops 3. I was on Cloud9. I think it was me, Moach, Burns, and Merch.
Jeez, that team.
Yeah, so we're actually pretty solid. We barely didn't qualify too. You know what? I think we lost to DT in the first qualifier as well to not make it. We lost to them for both league qualifiers. And damn, yeah, but me and Burns were pretty much close from there on out, and I ended up on a United regardless, so obviously it all paid off.
Yep.
And that sort of brings us here, which I think is arguably your best that are World War II in terms of games. Oh, sorry. So I want to talk about, obviously, you've mentioned this a little bit in the past about how your team, I believe, was Accuracy, Legal, and Pac-Man, and then you infamously drop all three for the Twins and Gunless. How did that situation come about? Because not many people in your situation would just quickly drop the veterans, or the organization let you drop the veterans for a bunch of young guns. So, what went into that decision?
We had technically played at like 2 events, because we played at PSX prior, and I was literally like, any map we won, I was dropping like 50s, like insane numbers. So I was like the clear cut best on the team at that point, and I can kind of tell we weren't like going up too much because of our Vegas performance was like so bad, and like accuracy was like horrible at that game. Like I love Lamar, but he was horrific. Pac was probably like the second best one on the team, and I did want to keep Pac. I was trying to keep him on and pick up 2 out of 3 of Preston, Alec, and Pierce. But I ended up having to get all 3. I actually Burns kind of gave me the option. He's like, you can pick up these vets, which was like I think like Haggy, like Llama, and someone else. Like pick up these vets. We'll give you this much. And I ended up taking a 50% pay cut to pick up the amps because he didn't trust my decision that much in the first place. So obviously it panned out. We ended up making more money anyways in terms of salary because we won our first event together. So yep, all went perfectly.
Never knew about that. That's actually, I don't think I've ever heard of a player taking a pay cut to get AMs and then winning an event. That's actually really pretty cool, actually. So
yeah, like it's a good risk,
Yes, that brings us.
Yeah.
In that game, I would have been screwed. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Llama was good at that game, but yeah.
Yeah, Llama was solid.
That brings us to our first clip. So I was gonna show the player cam reaction to winning. So let me get that loaded on here. So I gotta share OBS. Nice, and then here and pop this.
Watch stream.
Yeah, there we go. All right, and then United jersey looking nice, and then we have here's the clip.
Progression I would like to see. Arcades picks up 1. Christini with another. Silly in a perfect position here. 1 more. It's done. Just like that. You see the disappointment on the face of the.
And then Preston's all riled up because you know how playing Optic is. The fans are just like shit talking us the whole time. So he was going off instead of celebrating.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you. So you see Gunless and Christini going off and yelling at the fans. And your reaction was just a lot more calmer and cooler, and just wanted to dap your teammates up. But so for you personally, I don't know about how it is in tens and eights, but you don't seem to have too much of trash talking going on. But what was that moment like for you? And did you? I feel like for you, because you were a veteran and were playing for longer, it felt like more of a personal achievement and less of a screw these fans kind of moment. But how did you feel in that moment?
It was definitely a personal achievement thing. Before that event, I feel like that's the first team where I could say we're all on the same page and playing together and playing correctly. I thought we were gonna win the event beforehand. Even though nobody else did, I definitely thought we were gonna win. I feel like we kind of breezed through that event as well.
Yep.
And yeah, it was definitely a personal achievement. I had been used to like, fans just talking trash, in
Yeah.
prior years, so it didn't really matter too much to me.
I think
And
what's interesting. Sorry to cut you off, Seth.
you go.
What's interesting about that event, because I've been trying to look at past events and see if this ever happened before. But I think you're one of the first teams to have won an event where none of the current roster had ever won a championship before. Like in most teams we've seen, at least they have like a veteran on the roster that has won before. Like Rise when they won, they had Looney had won multiple championships. But I'd never seen a team like United. Maybe in Black Ops 2 they had these teams, but in United's case, like none of the four of you had ever won an event before, and you four together won one. And we'd never seen that in Call of Duty history, from what I can tell.
Yeah, we had like the Cinderella kind of story. It's definitely like it. You might never see that again with the way the talent
Yeah.
pool is now.
Oh, there's no way.
Most of these teams have like one or two vets, and then they have like two newer kids. But I don't think you'll ever see four players that have never won an event win ever again. So if we're the only one all the way through, that's a cool little fun fact.
Yeah, it's something that I noticed is like that's actually crazy because most of the players you can at least tip your hat to one event they won. Your team was sort of a big surprise there. One thing I wanted to talk about though is during that IW Atlanta final, obviously you guys ended up losing the first best of five to Optic. I think I can't remember if it was 3-0 or 3-1. What went into the comms between you guys going into that second best of five that like helped you regain?
Literally before the first best of five, I told them, and I'm like, listen, like they've been playing, they're coming through losers. We're sitting here, we're iced. If we get absolutely battered in this first best of five, don't worry about it. We'll win the next one. Is literally like the exact thing I said when that was going to happen, because that's infamous in COD. The team that comes through losers, like if you play 7 matches in a row and your team waiting in winners hasn't played all day, like those first like 2-3 maps are usually just not on your side whatsoever. So I was definitely expecting that, and we were a lot more calm for the second one.
I think really really cool. I mean, obviously you were the leadership position there, so cool for you to tell those guys that, and you guys bounced back and won. So it was honestly, I think for Seth and I, that was honestly one of the best events we've watched.
That's when I
The
first
whole
started
time.
watching. Was like end
Yeah.
of Black Ops 3, early IW, and I kept hearing about these onliners, and I'm glad that you guys ended up performing that well because now when everyone talks about like onliners and the whole concept, I always think back to you guys winning and thinking like if they play well online, they obviously are a good team and know how to play well together. They can do it on LAN. I know that's not always the way it is, but for you guys, it seemed like the chemistry was there and it was like a perfect fit.
Yeah, we got a lot of onliner stuff. I think we won like one or two 2Ks before that.
Yep. Yeah.
And everybody said onliner, but I could tell like we were genuinely just good, and I'm glad we showcased it so early on. We didn't have any like dry spell when we first started playing together, and I feel like those two events, like Dallas and Atlanta, were like two of the best like grand finals like
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're
in
so entertaining.
recent
Yeah.
years. Yeah, they're
Yep.
absolute bloodbaths.
Honestly. But speaking a bit about that, obviously your team after those two events sort of begins to crumble, and there's the infamous Gunless deciding to bench himself and then get traded to FaZe. I know you guys have alluded to what exactly happened, or a little bit about what happened, but we were wondering if you could elaborate on what went wrong with that United team.
What went wrong with that team? So I'm sure if you ask Pierce, he'll say it's at least he'll say it's his fault probably. If you ask me, I'll say it's my fault. Um, it was my first time winning. I was kind of like I think I just turned 21, or I was about to, and I kind of was just like, I was kind of just like hanging out with my friends, like going out and stuff. I didn't want to practice as much, and all Pierce wants to do is play Call of Duty. Realistically, even with me on the team not playing as much, he would have been in a way better spot if he would have just stayed on our team. Um, I obviously could have been a better teammate. That's why I'm sure if you ask anybody nowadays, I'm pretty much like the absolute best teammate, because me, being a 21-year-old kid and blowing off my job to, go out or party or whatever was pretty stupid. So yeah, definitely fault on both of our ends, but the only chance of Optic not winning that champs was us keeping Pierce on our team. So it kind of sucks that he ended up wanting to leave.
Going going into that, obviously you mentioned champs. Because you guys initially, I know with Clay when he joined, looked very strong. There was a lot of talk about you guys making waves. You went to playoffs. You beat Optic in winners finals or winning semis, and then lose a really close game 5 to them in the losers bracket at playoffs. But at champs, obviously, there's that. I think arguably one of the greatest comebacks of all time, which is Envy's 10-0 for the uplink. We heard Envy's comms and how precise they were, but what was going on in the United comms during that time?
So basically, on that map, if you're getting relayed on, like if they keep dunking on you, you have to make the choice. Are you going to shortcut and try and gun them off the head glitches when they're posted up on the ball, or are you going to take the long route? I was more of a shortcut guy, so I'm like, we should always shortcut, like stop the bleeding, like whatever. So you take the long route, you give like 2 dunks. So basically, we had already gotten dunked on once or twice, and we called the long route. I'm like, I don't like the long route, man. Like, we shouldn't take the long route to go back to the ball. And then we got 3-pieced taking the long route, which took us, 15 seconds to get over there. And they got 2 more dunks, and we literally just, greatest comeback of all time. That was pretty much the end of champs for us. And then if that wasn't the final dagger, next map was, and our morale was just absolutely destroyed. Like we kind of just made a bad call in terms of what to do right there, and obviously their communication was a bit better. So that's how it crumbles.
It seemed like that United team though that it was often, even in World War II when you had the back-to-back Game 5 round 11s that went TK's way. It seemed to be a problem with like trying to rebound after a loss in winners, and you go down to losers and kind of lose out right away. So is that something you learned from in the going forwards and learn how to rebound? Because it seemed like it wasn't really there with that team.
Yeah, we really didn't rebound well. Who knows, man? Maybe we got like some form of PTSD from playoffs and like champs, and getting came back on like that. That every time we lost, we're just kind of like, damn, like, hopefully we don't lose out again. But yeah, that was definitely a curse we had. And between playoffs and absolutely smoking Optic the first time and then barely losing them the second time and then getting came back on them by Envy. We had a really, really, really unfortunate run as a team with Clay. On top of that, too, like 5-5 against TK. One time we got 3-piece from the flank because somebody gave it up. Another time we got collateral sniped through the smoke. Like, you can't make it up, and there's not much you can do about it. But wow, like we could not have had a more unlucky run of events.
Yeah, honestly, that is down pretty rough when you put it in that perspective. But what was it like? I think you mentioned you teamed with Clay in MW3, I believe. What was it like teaming with him again? At this point, he was a world champion.
Clay was I definitely think our team was at its best with Gunless, but Clay brought a good leadership aspect. And after getting dropped by FaZe and all of his life drama and issues he was having at the time, he was like hungry for a win. Like he had the fire, especially like during IW, he had the fire, and I definitely think we were capable of winning both of those events. We just obviously didn't. But he brought a really, really good leadership aspect to the team, and he was like absolutely frying in the first place. Pretty good teammate.
How does his leadership compare to Aches? Because obviously, United goes to the decision to drop you, and then you go over to EG and start playing with Aches. So how is their styles and leadership a bit different?
Clay's more of like an in-game leader hype guy. He kind of just keeps the morale up and things like that, which is, that's a lot because the big issue mid-match for a lot of teams, their morale or like getting down when you lose a lead and things like that. That's what Clay's there for. But Aches is the best in-game leader in Call of Duty history. If Aches even just remotely tried, because all these years people are like, oh, Aches is washed. This guy does that, like, he's not even trying. Like, he's not even trying to like do well. If you could have Pat on your team dropping a 1.0, his in-game value is so high that I would 1 billion% play with him on any team I was on.
Wow. Okay. Nice. Yeah. Well,
I remember.
I was gonna say I heard he didn't play the game at all this year. So
oh yeah, he didn't. And then in Black Ops 4, like, wow, he was like, I don't know if it's like he didn't like the game, but he just like, it's like whatever, like didn't try too much. So that was kind of how things ended up on our MV team. And if you have someone like Hugh on a team who's like hungry, hasn't won anything yet, and then you have Pat on a team, it just doesn't make for a good recipe whatsoever.
I remember Krim, I can't remember what podcast it was. He said that they had to constantly threaten to drop Pat during like their complexity EG run just to keep him motivated enough to play. Which seems crazy. Like you think the guy who talks all the shit in the world. Granted, obviously, he's won 19 times, but you think he'd want to at least keep trying to win. But that's kind of crazy. But moving, going back a bit to talk about the United change. Did you want to stay on that United team in World War II? Did you think that it was because you had brought their first championship, and obviously they showed a lot more loyalty to Clay at the time? Did you think that they should have, stuck with you through that process?
In World War II, I mean, there needed to be a change made, and if you go down the ladder right here, like I wasn't our worst performing player, like it was Preston, obviously, but what are you gonna do? Drop Preston and then Alex not gonna play, or are you gonna drop your franchise player with millions of followers? I'm the odd man out, and that's just kind of how it goes. And from a return on investment standpoint, obviously, like you keep Clay. That's how it goes too. A lot of stuff like that goes in a COD and it sucks, but it's just kind of how things run a lot of the time.
I will say I loved the way you reacted to it though, because you jumped into 8's lobbies and started frying everyone, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
you became super scared of EG. I remember when I heard about that. I was in the Reddit, and all of a sudden we saw all these people talking about like, okay, EG's winning champs because Silly's going off in 8's.
Yeah.
He's just like frying
Yeah, it's like
everyone.
50 every map for like literally like 2 months. It's like,
That's
no, I'm
insane.
not getting replaced. And apathy's another reason why I kind of did so good in the last half of the year. He's another really good like in-game teammate and like a vibe person, and he knows how to play really well with other sub players. So he's also like he's on in my like top 3 list of teammates too, along with like Pat.
Yes, I have a fun clip for you to react to next.
Oh, sorry. Just before you,
Before you
so
okay,
who's the second? You said Pat and App are your top 3. You would.
And I have to put Adam in there obviously, but
Of course.
and Alec has to be in there too, like our cities, but that's my top 4 for sure.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We could show the next clip. It's one you definitely remember because it was a lot of fun. Let me get that rolling. Drag this. There we go. All right. So when you're on EG and you had a nice little play.
Heard it. I think you just heard that smoke pop. That's a big play right there. To hold on to that for Assault. Clayster has to repeat it. Now it's a 4v2. Clay finds one, but they have to peek this. R6
Yeah, I can't
now.
see the clip at the
There
moment.
we go. He gets cleaned up.
Damn.
There's your Discord.
Okay. Well, I don't know why it's not working. Damn it. Okay. Well, the clip. I'll just tell you. The clip was you coming back and beating United after they dropped you, and in that round 11 in the S&D, after you guys win it, you stand up and throw up the choke signals to your former team, and then you walk off stage all proud of yourself. It was quite a good game. So what was that series like? And after that, you guys destroyed the next map. So what was that series like?
I feel like I dropped a bomb on them on the second map. What did I have, like 15 or something? But
You had 13 and 5, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So and I think we're down like what, like 5-2 or something.
It's 5-2, yep.
Which on London Dock Search, like that's you don't want to lose like that. And I feel like that was pretty on brand for how our team was during World War II, like choking a map like that. Adam had gotten dropped off Echo Fox, and earlier in the tournament, I was like, all right, Adam. I was like, I got you against Echo Fox. It's like, you just got to take care of United for me. Like, all right, deal. And I was literally smoking Echo Fox when we played them. I was like 1v2ing them, 1v3ing them. And then we played United, and it was literally just like Pat hyped me up the whole time, and I was just absolutely frying them.
That was a great series. I love that series. Just so much
Yeah,
passion.
That was a passion series. I enjoyed it a lot.
And then obviously, I was gonna go into the what happened in the season, where it was you guys are 5-2 in the league, and then obviously lose a bunch of games, go 7-7, and just miss out on playoffs. But do you see missing out on playoffs as a weird blessing in disguise because you got more time to practice for champs and obviously surprised a lot of people there?
Oh yeah, it was definitely a blessing. I'm happy we missed playoffs. We basically when we went through that dry spell, it was because of our S&D.
Yep.
And I'm sure you noticed that there was like a meta change in World War II when everybody started lining up these smokes. Every smoke that was getting lined up was ours. Like we made every single one of those smokes, and then we were doing it in search. Everybody learned the smokes, and then we're using them against us. So like every time we ran a strat, everybody knew what we were doing because we based it solely off of our smokes. So missed out on playoffs, and what Embry and Pat did is they used that like 1 to 2 months to use all new smokes, all new strats, all different things. So when we got to champs, nobody had seen us play in such a long time. They had no idea what we were gonna do, and we just ran all new strats on everybody. And I think we won like most of our S&Ds.
Yeah, you also beat TK on their best maps. Was that a like conscious decision to learn those maps and beat them on it?
Which ones?
Like you beat them on Forest S&D, Forest Hardpoint. You beat them on Jibby Hardpoint. Like just like
See,
some of those maps.
did we play them on Forest? I feel like we would have banned Forest Hardpoint.
I think you played them on Forest S&D, which was
Yeah, if it's Forest S&D, we were the way we kind of based it off of the map, like Destiny maps, we can get the most film on. We were confident on every single map, so whatever team we can watch the most like film on, we would just automatically play them on because we can hard counter exactly what they were doing. So yeah, I think we smoked them on it too when we played them. So
yeah, you did.
yeah,
Yeah, App had a good time on that map in S&D.
yeah.
And then obviously you guys win champs, and it's I was a TK fan that year, so it's a bit bittersweet. I was not very happy, but it was crazy grand final, and I want to talk about that last game 3, the CTF. So obviously the first best of 5, you guys won the first 2 and then get reverse swept. And in the CTF, the second best of 5, you had a great map. I think you went like 23 and 15 or something like that, and you had the winning cap. What were the comms like in that last capture when it went 2-0 up?
We kind of knew already we were gonna win. I can tell by the way they were moving around the map. They like just knew that it was chalked.
Okay. Yeah,
Trying to have any kind of. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I could tell the momentum was all the way on your side. Like they were not
Yeah.
gonna feel the best of reverse sweep again. It wasn't gonna happen.
It's hard to have like some kind of resilience when you're down 2-0 and you're down 2-0 in the CTF as well. It's just like, damn, man, like we really just lost this. Like very few players are gonna be like, no, we got this. Like power through. I was literally just like shooting people in the side at the end of the game, so it's definitely tough for them.
One thing I wanted to sort of go back through in that tournament was obviously, as an Optic fan, it was heartbreaking to see them get destroyed 3-0 by the likes of you guys and Pat. Obviously, you guys knew going into that series you needed to 3-0 them. Did Pat say anything, or do you notice that Pat plays differently if he plays against a team like Optic Gaming? Is there something else there when he plays them?
He tries harder.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep. And he literally before the series, Pat's like, we're playing Optic. He's like, I always smoke Optic. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm like, all right. And then we just once they lost map 1, Pat was like, the series is over. That was the only map they had a chance of winning. They're not going to beat us in CTF. They're definitely not beating us in Search. He's like, it's over.
Yeah, one thing I remember was post-event Bevels showed, or he broke down the SD between you guys and Optic, and he explained like their strats, like what Optic would do, and it was extremely basic. He was like, okay, Octane's gonna play. I think it was like an Arden Sports. Like Octane's gonna be in the middle trying to get a pick, and everyone else is gonna be on the outside of the map just waiting for it. And he's like, that's all we have to do is like kill Octane. I'm like, wow, that's really depressing that was their strat, but you guys clearly knew all that stuff.
Their S&D definitely wasn't great. That's why only against them we ran a double sniper setup because we knew what methods in Octane we're going to do every round. So, if one of them peeks bunker, they die. If one of them peeks bell, they die. So there's really nothing they can do, and they were relying on Octane to open up the map for them every time. So it was just free kills.
Was Bebbles the most thorough coach that you had in your career?
He's the most tactical coach for sure. I don't feel like there was much he could really do for us coaching wise in Black Ops 4, considering how the game is, because it plays like you just 5-hit everything. Like what is our coach going to tell us to do? We just run around together. But yeah, he's definitely a tactical coach. He's very thorough, and he doesn't talk too much, and you don't really hear him talking too much about anything. But Embry's a really, really intelligent person, just in like all aspects. So he has a very good idea of what's going on, especially with like COD players. He can kind of predict what they're going to do because he used to be an S&D star himself, so that's really he's a mastermind.
So what was the difference between that team that we saw and then the NV team in Black Ops 4? Is it just a matter of the change of pace and Aches not trying?
In Black Ops 4, I'm sure like a lot of players could agree with this. If you really don't like the game, you just don't play as well. Which is like a Pat thing. Which Pat was like okay through most of the year. Like he was horrible come champs time. But you can blame a lot of that year just on bad team environment. We actually had like 2 offers on which team we could go to for the amount of money we were asking for at the beginning of the year. And I feel like if we would have put Pat together with Jerd instead of Kyler, I feel like it would have went a little bit better. Pat seems to do better, and older players seem to like him more if he's not around like up and coming players. I feel like a lot of like hungry like young players like Kyler get annoyed with how Pat is really fast, and that just kind of makes it a bad team environment.
Is that the same way that JT felt towards the end of the year?
Yeah, him and JT would bicker a little bit, but Pat and Farrow was the worst for
Oh
sure.
god, I can't imagine that even happening.
That was a nightmare. That was a
How do
really
you guys manage to get top 4?
so we ended up having Pat as our main AR, and I think we got top 4, and he literally had like a 0.7 with the ICR.
Jeez,
But we were good. Like me, Farrow, and Desi were like good together. Like we were all cool. But it's the same thing that seems to happen on our teams. Like Pat and someone else have a little like issue with each other. So it was him and Farrow, and basically like Pat wanted to play one way, Farrow wanted to play his way, and then they would just go at it all the time. So we had another dry spell because of that.
Speaking of, you just alluded to the fact that you guys had offers after your champs win. Jared, I'm assuming meant that Splice was looking into you. Do you know what or can you share what the other team was besides Envy and Splice?
We were actually in the first place planning on staying on EG because like we love EG. Like Towie was the GM over there. He was like our, we're all really good friends with Towie. The only reason we left EG is because they couldn't get us a 5th. We were very limited because all the best sub players got locked down at the beginning of Black Ops 4 by their orgs. So we could either like pick up a top amateur player, or we could have gotten like Lacefield or something, or we had to go to another organization to get their talent.
Yeah, that killed JT's season early on when G2 locked him down with like the crazy buyout.
Yeah,
Sucked.
yeah, he was in a tough spot. They're taking good care of him at least, but
that's true. Yeah.
It always sucks when that happens. I was trying to get out of that envy situation at the end of the year as well, but I just I couldn't. So I had a really good offer at the end of the year, but I couldn't go anywhere.
That's unfortunate.
That sucks. What was the offer?
I had like a kind of like a soft offer from Gen G before playoffs.
That's
and on top of that too, after Anaheim, I could have gone to E6 with Goddard and then they ended up being pretty good too. But I would have taken if I would have went to E6, I think I would have taken a pretty big pay cut. And I was like, they weren't like super good yet. I think they're getting like top 12. Maybe they had like one top 6, so it was kind of a risk. But I probably would have been in good shape if I went to either of those teams instead of getting smoked at champs.
Like by tissue.
Yes.
Yeah. I can imagine you on. Sorry, I couldn't imagine you on Gen G. Like I'm guessing in Nagafen's place. That's
Nagafen, yeah.
Would have been something else because I know they struggled at champs for whatever reason they did.
They were a good team.
Yeah, they were. A top 3 team all year, so that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I would have helped them at champs. In that 60K from playoffs.
For real.
Not bad.
I mean, could have won at playoffs. They played Clay in finals. I actually checked I went back to try to track your record against Clay on LAN, and from what I understand, it's like around 8-8. Like you both are pretty even. That was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Hey, that's not bad for considering how many grand finals Clay's been in. That's a good enough record for me.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I was gonna ask though. You mentioned about like treating players well, and different orgs treating players well. What would you say is your favorite org you played under, and the org that kind of treated you the best as a player?
It would have to be Rocker United for sure. E United, I'm still in touch with like everybody from E United. I assume as soon as it expands, they're going to come in the league as well. So I'm looking forward to that. And then Rocker, Minnesota sports fans and just, Minnesota like people are just extremely nice. They took great care of us. They were involved with our families, our friends, like, our communities. And they're just genuinely nice people, and they took really good care of us.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear that franchising kind of. I think there's a worry that a lot of franchises wouldn't connect with players, so it was nice to see that from Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, you can't before how you have like absolute scumbag orgs coming in and like taking advantage of players. You're not going to see that anymore because they're going to get there's regulations and stuff, I assume, where you can't completely just screw your players over. So that's always good. Nobody has to worry about it anymore.
Denial. Definitely denial.
Yeah, whatever team they rebrand to.
Midnight.
Yeah.
Accelerator. Those are horror stories, but moving forward, obviously this year was a bit of an up and down year for you and personally and the team. Obviously, given that you guys saw so much success when people doubted you. You had such a ringing endorsement from Gary Vaynerchuk, who I'm a big fan of, at your home event, and then once the year switched to online, it looked like you guys lost a lot of steam. What do you attribute that to?
Without like completely making online an excuse, which is something I'd love to do, but it's not like it's only that. We were a good team on LAN, and obviously everybody built their team for LAN. Like nobody was picking up these like online players in the first place. You saw a lot of these AMs come up to teams solely because it was online and there was less risk. Being able to play from your own setup at home. But basically, we ran into tons of issues this year. We had pacing issues. We had more internet issues than other teams just because we were in the north, and a lot of teams are just in Texas. And after we got like our multiple second places, our overall work ethic on our team with some of us decreased quite a bit, which is obviously unacceptable. And it's not like that's anything I support, but people get complacent, and it happens all the time with COD players. And I just hope that's not something I ever have to deal with again, because I'm getting too old to deal with that.
Yeah, sort of to elaborate on that or to go further. I know Krim on the podcast talked about how he used to text you, Asim, and Alex during scrims about Alex or Assault rather and GodRx weren't trying. Is that true? Did he actually text you guys?
Yeah. He would just text us all together and be like, hey, like, tell your team to push up, blah blah. Like, it kind of felt like when we switched online. So here's the best example I can give you. When it was on LAN, granted, I'm sure if you compare LAN stats to online, there's probably a lot more interactions online just because of overall confidence, people playing, more confident at home. When we played slow on LAN and got all these kills, it was fine because people would play slower and they play more scared and less risky. But when we switched online, we're still playing that slow, kind of getting the kills still, but now everybody's playing way faster. We're just getting outpaced by every single team. And on our team, on our best maps were like our AR maps, and it felt like we had two main ARs on every map. So it's like the three subs just running into hills trying to break them while we have two main ARs posted up looking over us. So it kind of made things difficult.
Yeah, it's obviously a tough situation. But speaking a bit on that, you guys obviously decided to make the decision to go with Exceed over GodRx at the end of the year for champs. What sort of went into the decision? Was it a team decision? Was it the coach Brian Saint, calling an audible there? Like, what went into that?
We, like, me personally, I don't know about the other players, but I was not going into champs without making some kind of a change. I definitely don't think it was a one-person change. It had to be more than that. It shouldn't have just been one person. But yeah, I was not going into champs playing with the same team after we choked maps over and over and over again. Basically, the coach just sat us all down, asked everybody who should get swapped out, and we all came to an agreement. I definitely think we should have, like, obviously hindsight's 2020, but we should have made some kind of a change earlier on to stop the bleeding instead of just like trying to fix it, because or like 3 events after that when we did bad, we're like, oh, but we're good on land. Like, we were good, and we're still hoping that Champs is going to be on land, but ended up not being on land. So, definitely wasn't a one-person issue, but we did the best with what we could.
Sort of speaking on something different now. Obviously, there have been a lot of drama with the off season. I was curious to get your perspective on what you think this off season has been. Has it been very different compared to years past? What goes into the off season? Is it just you DMing other players, like saying, "Hey, I want a team," or is it the orgs coming to you saying, "Hey, this is who we have"? Like, what is that whole process like?
I don't really make alliances with players. I'm sure you guys know that like a lot of the pros have their own circles and the same people they rotate around. I don't try to make alliances with people. I don't to put it bluntly, I don't dick ride people, which is obviously what a lot of players do. Not like the amazing players, like the S tier players, but a lot of players dick ride to keep their spots and kind of make alliances to stay on teams. But if anything, I kind of try to look out for Adam because Adam's someone that I'll always want to play with. But other than that, I don't really DM anybody anymore. I let my agent handle it. It's way too stressful if not, and I really don't like being on the phone all day. And this off season has been the most stressful ever, and I think it's completely unacceptable for the timing of this 4v4 switch. I think if they're switching to 4v4, it should have been when franchising started or next year with an expansion. It had to be one or the other. It couldn't be right now, and
Yeah,
I
so you-
can't.
Yeah.
I don't know who signed off on that.
Yeah, because you're cutting at least 12, spots.
More than
It's maybe
12,
more
like,
because
yeah.
of the rookies, but you're cutting at least 12 spots.
Well, on top of that too, now you're not required to have 2 subs anymore.
That's
So you're
true.
cutting
That's a good point,
more.
yeah.
So you only need 1 sub, and I've made this point like a dozen times, but imagine right now if there's a player that's starting whose entire family is solely relying on their income because they lost their jobs due to COVID, or like obviously the US is still in shambles. So that's a very realistic scenario. And then you're just like taking these jobs away from people for whatever reason, and they're like, "Oh, well, everybody wanted 44." Nobody ever asked me. Nobody ever asked me what I wanted to do. So it's not, I don't think there's like an actual like vote. I think it was just kind of a word of mouth thing that got pushed through too early.
Yeah, honestly, like it didn't make sense to either of us when they went to 44. We all just assumed that means there's expansion coming, and then they said no, teams, we're not getting expansion into the league, at least not until next year. So we were counting like the list of players that have been rumored not to be attached to any teams, and it's like crazy. Like some of these players have been in the league like almost like over like half a decade or more, which is kind of crazy to see that they're not in the spot anymore. But sort of speaking on that, obviously, Wuskin is one of the players that we've heard that doesn't have many offers, and recently he's been in a bit of drama with Adam Assault, obviously coming out and talking about one of the reasons why that he may not be getting offers. I can't remember exactly what he said, but something along the lines of they weren't able to come to scrims because their team had them go into Warzone tournaments or whatnot. Obviously, I saw you on Reddit defending him, but I wanted to let you an opportunity to explain more on what your take on the situation is.
I've whatever Adam said about him had absolutely no value or no weight on any organizations giving him offers or anything like that. In my opinion, that's kind of how it was portrayed by him. Kind of like a victim card to say, "Oh, well, this is why," because people are slandering my name. Me and Adam would never be going to other people talking behind their backs to try and one up ourselves, which a lot of players do as well. So respect for Adam for saying it publicly where it can be seen by everybody. I give him props for that because most players wouldn't do that. Um, and the only reason we made that claim is that they're canceling our scrims for this Warzone stuff is because if we if we have people close to them texting us like, yeah, like these guys aren't scrimming again because they're playing Warzone, like what are we supposed to think? It's not like we're saying that half cocked. Like we have people literally hitting us up like, so sorry guys, like they want to play another Warzone tournament, blah blah blah. So what are we supposed to think? It's not like we were asking Wuskin directly, like, hey man, why'd you chalk our scrim today? But whatever.
Well, I don't think it's a big surprise that Dylan doesn't want to play with them anymore. So we'll see what that London team ends up being. But I'm not going to make you confirm if it's Dylan or not. But I was going to ask you, kind of wrapping up the podcast, I wanted to ask, are there any former players that you've teamed with? I know you mentioned Assault is one of them that you'd like to team with again. Are there any more that you'd think make a good teammate and would be a good mesh for you and Assault?
Um, Apathy's always a good safe pick. I feel like in the 5v5 era, he's it's hurt his stock quite a bit.
Yep.
He's really undervalued. But, I mean, this guy's literally been in every Champs Grand Final that hasn't been a 5v5 game in the past 3 years before that, right? Yeah, so I mean, I feel like that's a really safe pick going into 4v4.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's true.
So he's a really good teammate. Obviously he's got a lot to play for now. He's got a new baby, he's got a family,
Yeah.
so the guy wants to win more than anything.
Yeah,
And
but
then
I
what
think
about, like-
Apathy's criminally underrated.
Yeah, he always has been. Even when he was doing well, he was still kind of like under the radar quite a bit.
And I was also going to ask, in terms of rookies or young players, when it comes to decision to pick them up, like you did with Pharaoh and Decimate, when it comes to those kind of decisions, and even the twins, is there something specific that you look for? Is it it's raw talent, or is it also ambition and drive? Is it all of them together? Like, how's that go for you?
There's a lot. Like if you're looking at a player, you want you want them to have good comms. Not be a hothead. Be a good teammate. And you can kind of just tell. Like if you play eights, like I play a lot of like amateur tens.
I've seen that,
And you can tell when players are like, when they have it. Like if you watch like somebody like Sib or Nero play, you can tell they're like a bit of like a step ahead over the rest of their peers.
Yeah,
So
I just want to
it's
say
really
Sid
easy
is so
to spot.
toxic though.
Yeah, and that's gonna happen too, especially like you're gonna have a lot of amateur players trying to overcompensate because they're not on teams yet and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you're good, it doesn't really matter. Like look, like Donnie's like the most toxic person on earth, and he always finds a way.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does find a way to always get on his team. I think the last segment we're gonna do before we end the entire podcast is we mentioned we have this segment that we do with some of our guests called One in the Chamber, where we ask a couple questions and you can only respond with one word. Obviously, we'll give you more leniency because you're our guest. So if you want to elaborate, feel free to do. But if you don't have to. So who is your favorite teammate of all time?
Salt.
Who's the toughest player to kill in any game or any map?
Shotzi and MW.
Which player from the pre-AW and Black Ops 2 era do you think could compete in today's era had they kept it up?
Damn, that's a tough one. Heist.
Ooh, okay.
Ooh,
I feel like he was pretty good way back when. Yeah.
Who's one player you've always wanted to team with that you haven't?
Scump, of course.
Yeah, that's fair.
Worst event you ever attended, and this one you can elaborate if you want to.
Anaheim and Black Ops 4. I knew before the tournament my team was pretty much chalked because they were just at each other's throats, and we did not win a map.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I knew that was going to happen too. Beforehand.
Best coach you've ever had?
That's a tough one. It's Bevels or Reppin. But
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
yeah, pick both.
Favorite alcoholic drink?
White Claw.
Oh, come.
Even
Wait, which
simple.
flavor? Which flavor though?
I like the tangerine. That's usually my go-to.
They don't have that up in Canada just yet, so.
Damn,
Oh, it sucks.
is there suffering out there?
And we have Black Share. That's all we got right now.
At least you guys can go outside and stuff. So
just for a bit. What's the favorite your favorite city to visit?
You know what? Maybe Toronto.
Yeah,
was-
there we go.
I was really excited to go there this year, and New York City. I was really excited to go to
Yeah.
too. But
unfortunate circumstances. What's the? I guess we already talked about the best organization. Sum up your MW season in one word.
downhill.
Describe Aches in one word.
Hmm. He's. It's gonna be 2 words, but question mark. It just kind of depends on
Okay.
how good he wants to be.
All right, fair enough. And which COD pro can't handle their liquor? There's too many to say.
Fellow.
Oh,
I could see that. I could definitely see
All right.
that.
So, do you have any other questions to ask, or?
I think that's all we got. I wanted to ask one quick thing. What was it like teaming with Sparley again? Because I know you and Sparley were close, and you guys teamed when Gunless was benched. So what was that like? That it was a lot of fun.
I love teaming with Mike. Mike's actually one of my groomsmen as well. So
Nice.
we're still very close. It was fun playing with him. We actually we didn't do that bad considering I don't think he had played the game too much, but we did okay, and I always like playing with Mike. He's a really good teammate.
That's like all I got for the podcast.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up. So, thank everyone for listening. Thank you, Silly, for taking the time to come on. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you all enjoyed the podcast.
Yep. Sweet, thank you guys.
Yep. Thanks.